Good evening and welcome. I'd like to call the Curriculum and Policy Committee of the Board of Public Education at 5:19. Pardon the lateness because of technical difficulties. And today is Wednesday, January 29th, 2025. We are meeting online via Zoom. And we are fortunate tonight to have two interesting topics on the agenda. One is an update on the current middle school cell phone policy from Dr. Ahmed and Mr. Reiger, and a discussion of the need for a required physics course from student representative Mina Fitzgerald. And maybe I should see who we're here. Would you, let's see, Mina's here, and Usira, a member of the committee, Dr. Ahmed, assistant superintendent, Dr. Atkinson Duina, assistant superintendent, and Courtney Graffius, technology
integration coordinator for the district.
Thank you. And Chair Lentz is visiting. Oh, and I see that Principal Jepson is joining us as well. So we'll begin with public comment. If there are any individuals who wish to make public comment, they should raise their hand. And I do not, Greg, is there anyone in?
There are attendees. There's, Nikki Bondo just raised her hand.
Okay, I think she wants to come in. Okay. And is there any other hands raised?
Nope.
Oh, let me see if I can say.
Actually, Matt H has raised his hand.
Okay. So, Matt, if you would like to make public comment, I'm going to now read the rules for public comment before you begin. It's not required, but we do it anyway, the committees. As a reminder, public comment, members of the public may speak on any subject directly related to the operations of the schools, except for personnel matters and complaints concerning specific employees or students, which shall be addressed through the established policies and procedures. Comments are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes or 6 minutes for individuals using an interpreter to make their comment. Individuals may not relinquish a portion of their allotted time to another speaker. The board may not respond to comments. Speakers must refrain from engaging in disruptive conduct, including but not limited to vulgar and obscene language, threatening others using words or by other actions, using pejorative or discriminatory language with reference to a person or group on the basis of their religion, ethnicity, nationality, race, color, descent, gender, or identity factor. Making defamatory comments, exceeding the allotted time limits, talking over, interrupting others, offering repetitive comments, and offering comments on matters unrelated to school district program policies or operations are forbidden. I will stop any public comment contrary to these rules. And Matt, I think we could let Matt speak. Hello, Matt, what would you like to say?
Hi, thank you, Dr. Opperman. Hello, my name is Matt Hosmer. I am a teacher at Portland Public Schools at Casco Bay High School. And I am just here to say that I do think that it is very important that we seriously consider a sweeping change to the cell phone policy at all Portland Public Schools. I believe that it is in the interest of our students' health and education to remove personal cell phones and other technological devices from the school day, from the beginning of the spell to the end. That is all.
Thank you for your comment. Appreciate it. And Ernest Braun, would you care to speak? And did you hear the comments I made in reference to the rules?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me? Just wanted.
I can now. Thank you.
Okay, great. Just had a little technical difficulty.
All night we've had technical difficulties.
My name is Ernest Braun. I'm a dedicated building substitute at Casco Bay High School, and I would like to basically echo the testimony of my colleague Matt, who spoke right before. I think that the lack of clear and rigid and enforceable cell phone policy at the high school level is leading to an educational environment where very few students have the opportunity to engage in learning at the level and depth and rigor that we owe to provide them. And I also support sweeping change to the cell phone policy in this district. Thank you.
Thank you. And I see that Anna Cohen would like to speak. Welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Anna Cohen, 19 Anson Road. I am a Portland Public Schools parent of 2 kids at Rowe Elementary. I'm also a teacher outside the district. And I just wanted to comment to support the current efforts that the district is doing to make schools phone free in the middle schools, and just offer up my appreciation that there's a focus on it at this point. And I also want to express my support for any future changes that you might be making to the policy in the high schools, just because it's really vital to provide all Portland students with an opportunity to have a phone-free education, both for their social and emotional development, as well as for their ability to give their full attention to academics. So again, thanks for all the work you're doing in this area.
You're welcome. Thank you, Anna, for comment. Is there anyone else who would like to make a comment? Please raise your hand. Stephanie? Gil? Oh, you're not? Lisa Bergen, please. Would you like to make a comment? You have to unmute, please. Thank you. I can hear you.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Lucy Bergen. I am a parent in Portland Public of 2, of a 1st grader and an 8th grader. And I feel that I have some good perspective with my difference of age range with my kiddos here. I want to just highly support the work that you guys are doing to limit the use of cell phones in schools across the board, in all levels. And I especially appreciate the work that you're doing in the middle schools this year. I have noticed big difference in talking to teachers and the administration at my kids' school. And to be quite honest, I'm very worried about at the high school level, where one of them is headed next year, and the huge amount of distraction that cell phones are posing. And we are really loving the work that you guys are doing. I know this is a long process, but I want to also put a call to action for, I'm supportive of a full ban of cell phones at especially the middle and the high school level, from the start of the school day to the end of the school day. So thank you so much for listening, and carry on the good work.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bergen. Ms. Gill, would you care to speak now?
Yes, thank you. So I'm a graduate of Deering High School, and my son is there now. My husband and I both are in favor of a sweeping cell phone ban. When he started high school, he didn't yet have a cell phone, and he reported that there was an orientation activity where he was one of the only kids without a cell phone. And we did buy him a cell phone right after that. But then, of course, we were monitoring his usage, and we realized that it was on during the day. Most of the time, individual teachers would, have different policies. And so we now have screen time on during the school day so that he can't access, do calls or texts or social media during the day. But there are so many disruptions throughout the day from what we are hearing from classmates and from others that I don't see how students can focus. And I agree with the people who have spoken. I've also taught in the schools, and I think it would be there were also some assignments where students have to use Instagram or other things like that during the day. If we could really do a sweeping cell phone ban, I think it would be in everyone's favor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm looking to see if anyone else would like to speak. Make sure you raise your hand if you would, please. Lucy Soma, would you care to share? And don't forget to unmute. Thank you.
Hi, I am a teacher at Deering, and I would just add my voice to support for a bell-to-bell cell phone ban at the high school level. As a teacher, I see the impact of spotty teacher-enforced cell phone policies, which are hard to do as a teacher. It takes a lot of class time. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Shepherd, if you would like to speak.
Hi, my name is Lisa Shepherd. I'm a parent of a student in the elementary school, and I am fully in support of and echo a lot of the conversation that was just put out there. I fully support the work being done to update these policies, and am in favor of a sweeping cell phone ban in schools at all levels in the Portland School District. Sounds like the middle schools are paving the way, but I'd like to see it across the board and have that clarity, especially for staff members. I'm hyper aware of the conversations with students, parents, and staff that students are unable to learn and socialize in a human way because of the distractions that cell phones pose. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Again, I'm looking for hands. If I do not see any hands, we will close. I'm waiting to give another half a minute or less. I will now close public comment. Thank you all for your participation. So we will join into the rest of the agenda today. And I believe Dr. Ahmed would be the person who would lead off on the middle school phone policy.
Good evening, everyone. And I'll be sharing my screen, Greg. Yeah. Okay. Can you see my screen? No?
Nope.
Oh, there we are. Thank you.
Yeah, good evening again. Tonight with me is Dr. Reiger and Ms. Gravius. Also in the gathering is Principal Natrajan and Principal Chapson from the Portland High School and Casco Bay High School. They're not here to just present, but they're here to as a colleagues here. tonight we are sharing with you an update about the practices and implementation of the policy at the middle school and a sense how it is going. So we will review elements of the policy related to the middle school. As it's related to the middle school, we'll review actions taken since the August of 2024 and provide a brief update on the related conversation that we are hearing from some stakeholders and community members regarding the high schools. And also we'll have an opportunity to ask you questions and as a collective hearing from suggestions and next steps. So, as you, I want to minimize my screen. So, the school board policy that is in the books, JFCK, actually states that all these devices may not be used in any manner that disrupts the educational process, or it's illegal or violates the board policies. At the elementary level and the middle school levels during the school day, all such devices will be are turned off or silenced, and they are out of sight according to the policy. At the high school level, the class, during the classes and activities, they are off-site and silenced, and it is a little bit different. And I'll be talking about at the end about how the high schools are different. Can you hear me? Okay, so can you hear me?
Can hear you.
Yes. Okay. So the now I have with me, as I said, Ms. Grafias and Dr. Reiger, who will just take it from here. So, Ms. Grafias.
Actually, I'll take it. Thank you, Dr. Ahmed. So what we wanted to remind the committee of that we did an update in October, and there haven't been a lot of developments since then, but there are some. So we wanted to just include a recording of that meeting on October 8th and the slide deck and make them available and give them easy access so you have those so you can go back and watch and review. And so since August, what we have done, just which will be a reminder, staff from all middle schools completed a survey, and some of the results are there in the link related to cell phones in August and early September. And we asked staff from all three middle schools how problematic they felt cell phones were. 70% of the educators who completed the surveys thought it was highly problematic or problematic. 76 support increasing the tightening the controls and the access. So, and the majority were willing to rethink their own cell phone behavior and restrict it to, planning times or lunch when they're not kind of in with students. But those results are there available. And assistant principals developed and disseminated an advisory crew lesson. And there's a sample, I think, from LinkedIn there, so you can take a look, which was shared with the educators to make the off and away expectation crystal clear for students. And that was what we kind of determined in August, was that the policy was just not being implemented with fidelity. And so we found ourselves, each school found themselves in a bit of a prisoner's dilemma, where some folks were working hard to implement and adhere to the policy and others were not. And that makes for a very complicated school system where we are shooting for all this PBIS work we talk about is about consistency and predictability. And so to have kids kind of being able to, the expectations change depending on whose presence you're in, whose classroom you're in, it's too much. So we doubled down on adhering to the policy. And so we made that crystal clear for educators and we made it crystal clear for students. And so we kind of had a standard lesson that was modified by each school, but had the same content. And then we have a middle school student and tech learning plan regarding cell phones, headphones, and Chromebooks were again shared with students and families. Next slide. We continued family and community outreach because those two pieces are pivotal in everything we do in the school system, but particularly when changing or thinking about this policy and how we practice it. So we continued family and community outreach regarding digital citizenship. We hosted a wonderful parent university, which was about kind of just getting clarity and making some decision rules for families about how screens are used at home, and having families have discussions with kids about their use at school. That we also had updated the digital citizenship family resources webpage that's accessible, and librarian and culture and climate coordinators did some outreach coordinated with by Courtney. Courtney and I met with the Family Partnership Advisory Committee to share the current landscape of the cell phones. We asked assistant principals to track the frequency with which they or another colleague were activated to intervene, meaning that a student was not responsive to a friendly reminder. And we only collected this data for the first 2 months of school, and on average, assistant principals reported that 2.5 times a week they were asked to kind of come to a class to separate a student from their phone. And I just want to, I don't know if it's at all middle schools, but I think at King and Lincoln at least, but perhaps at Moore too, they all kind of, the staff decided that their response when seeing, because as Dr. Ahmed pointed out, the policy says out of sight. And often kids would keep them in their back pockets or their front pockets, so you could see them. And staff felt uncomfortable about kind of reminding kids that they were visible, and so they agreed on a friendly reminder that all you have to say is phone spotted. And I was talking with administrators at King today, and they said students are very responsive because everyone's on the same page, everyone gets the same friendly reminder. And in most cases, students will put their phones away at that point. But we don't have data after October about that. And then middle school administrators and the culture and climate coords were asked to recruit students to participate in a student advisory board to learn more about this. And that was put on pause in part because after the October meeting update, the decision by the committee was to kind of pause digging into this and just see how it was going to go if we really decided to elevate and adhere to the policy. And we didn't need to Courtney and I were doing a lot of digging and getting interested, because if we are going to do any kind of change, students and families have to be and staff have to be engaged. And then the middle school administrators disseminated a family survey. They kind of drafted it on their own. So when I share back some of the findings, you'll see that the data is not presented in the same way of like percentages. But and the last school to do that was on October 1st, sent that, so everyone got access to it. We did receive 365 responses. What is interesting about that is 100% of the families reported speaking English at home. So we don't really have a clear picture of our middle school families' kind of needs or thinking around this issue. But when we asked families, how aware are you of the policy of off and away? It was 4 point something out of 5. So overwhelmingly, I think it was like 4.9 in terms of families said, I am aware of that. I'm not sure our staff would have said that they were 4.9 out of 5, but families said, and a lot of them said, we know that that's the case, which is great. And then 3.9 out of 5 said, we support an increase in the restrictions. And then if you click on the link, I think is in the last slide, but we've done a content analysis of the reasons why for families that did not indicate a 5 out of 5. I support increasing restrictions. Tell us why. And so there's a content analysis about some of the themes, none of which will really surprise you. I just want, I want to be in contact with my kid in case of emergency, logistics, health, all the things that kind of come up. And then Courtney and I plan to meet with Portland Empowered, but we put that on pause because we were just kind of assessing and monitoring at that point. And Pius Ali had moved on from Portland Empowered, and so they were in a bit of transition. So there was kind of two reasons why we pressed the pause button on that. Next slide. And then I updated this data. We did share this in October, but Moore has been diligent about collecting it, and so I updated it through January 2nd. But Moore, and Moore is distinct in this way from the other two middle schools. All of our middle schools use Swiss to track these types of behaviors and where they're occurring, and what the motivation is behind some of them. So it's a valuable system. Moore decided that they were going to track kind of reminders. And so the M's next to certain these, what we would call unexpected behaviors, M means minor, meaning like it's a classroom managed, but people wanted to document it. If it doesn't have an M, it's considered a major, which is I had to ask for support, out of classroom support. So the culture coordinator, the assistant principal, the principal, social worker had to come to my class and kind of help me with this. So as you'll see, the top 4 behaviors in Swiss that goes into this monitoring system are minors. They're classroom based, but the number one thing is tech violations. And these are almost exclusively cell phone oriented. Some of them I think are misuse of devices and going onto websites that are, not sanctioned, but that might actually live in a different, I'm kind of looking through the behaviors now, but most of them are cell phone friendly reminders. And so it is taking a lot of teacher energy to redirect students, and all of these minor disruptions, of course, are occurring and interrupting teaching and learning. But that's updated data, and I think I'm handing it over to Courtney at this point. Nope, one more. We analyzed the family survey data, and you can link on that, and that's what I referenced of the 3.9 out of 5 families were like, we support increased restrictions, but there's a synthesis there. And as I shared, 100% of the families who followed up speak English at home. And then we crafted a letter to share that information with families, and Grace and her team reviewed it and helped us kind of clean it up a little bit. And then we shared that letter with middle school principals. It's linked in there so you can read it. And I know that it went out to families at King and Moore. And Blake was just double checking with me an hour ago. So I'm not entirely sure if it went out, but I'm sure that they have a plan to. That took some time with the holiday break, and we wanted Grace's team to really take a look at it for us before we sent it out. So, but it has been sent out at least to 2 of the schools. Now I will hand it over to Courtney.
Great, thank you. So what I'm going to share about here is some digital citizenship lessons that we worked to have prepared for students in the fall, so that they were aware that we weren't trying to take cell phones away to be mean, but that there are there's some brain research out there that supports that that's a beneficial thing for them to have those phones put away. So students at all 3 middle schools participated in and are participating in digital citizenship lessons, including those related to digital well-being and cell phone use. In this, educated students about digital media in their brain, how tech is designed to be addictive, and how to combat that in order to be able to focus. So both considering themselves in school, but on the whole as well. And so this was coordinated by the culture and climate coordinators at each of the middle schools, the digital media teacher, or the teacher librarian, with a big shout out to Court Haywood, Lincoln Middle School, and Lyman Moore Middle School's librarian for some really strong leadership with this work. I'm going to show next a slide that has some data pulled from the Office of Ed Tech at the federal level. And actually, if you could go back one slide, Dr. Ahmed, that would be great. Thank you. And so this is a device policy playbook that the federal government and Department of Ed has shared out. And I'll read the quote because I think it's very poignant. School districts and schools that prioritize digital citizenship education and open communication with students in conjunction with their device policy may help students build more balanced relationships with their smartphones and safer online habits. Investing in media literacy and digital citizenship education helps young people navigate online news and media and reduce online risks. For example, school-based media literacy training has been shown to decrease body dissatisfaction in adolescents, and conversations with students about privacy controls on social media lead to more scrutiny of targeted advertising. And so if we can go to the next slide, it's going to give you a little bit of a sample of one of the lessons called digital media in your brain. And so it focuses on exploring the ways that digital media is and is not designed to help us make good media choices and think about developing good, healthy habits when using digital media. This specific slide describes addictive and humane design techniques, which students learned about previously in the lesson. Then students as a class determined features of apps and categorized them accordingly to addictive versus humane design. Finally, students are encouraged to make their own choices and to use digital media that incorporates humane design. So I just wanted to give you that little snippet of digital citizenship education that our middle school students have had at all three of our schools this year. And I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Ahmed to talk about high school next.
Yeah, so thank you, Chris and Courtney. As you heard from some of our community members and stakeholders, there are some movement or some parents and teachers who are organizing with the intention of drafting recommendations about the cell phones at the high schools. So I would like to share with you that the current policy regarding the high school level is basically saying high school students only may use electronic devices during classes and during lunch, and cellular phones must be silenced to avoid disruption of their learning and teaching. So that is what we have in the policy. But I wanted just to share with you that there are some stakeholders who are reaching out and organizing around some more restricted cell phone use at the high schools. So now, if there are any questions.
Does anyone have a question? Chair Lentz.
Thank you, Board Member Opperman. I am just, first of all, just thank you. I just appreciate the process that has been going on now for quite some time. I think it is just really helpful to see all the different data points. And, I think when we started this back in the summer, one of the narratives that we maybe expected to hear was a lot of parents and guardians being worried about changing cell phones because of student safety and being able to access their students for either during emergencies or for translation, interpretation. And I know that we haven't quite gotten the multilingual perspective here, but I'm just curious, I didn't see that come through in what you presented tonight. And I'm just curious if that's also your experience looking at the data, or does it really seem that overwhelmingly there's just a lot of support for big change?
Chris, you want to talk about the?
Yeah, I think it's overwhelming for change from the reports that we have. Right, we still have to get more information. We did not talk to students, middle school students. Courtney and I did an interesting, fun advisory lesson with high school students at Deering last week or the week before. But so we would want to talk to students about this. We'd want to talk to all the families that we can. But I think that anxiety could be managed, not by everyone, with education and time. to adjust, to make plans for us to get our cell phones or our phone systems in our schools not dependent on the internet, which is part of the problem. So, because if the internet goes out, they can't call the school. And so we have to kind of address some of those system issues. But I do think part of it is educating the families. I mean, security experts do not want kids on phones in lockdowns in those types of situations, but I'm not sure that's, families don't know that. And they're just looking for information to connect with their kid, understandably. So I think we could get there, and I think it's a relatively small, I think we can, with education, diffuse the parent anxiety with kind of anticipating the needs and addressing them beforehand. And I do think, the middle schools, the two that I were in today, reported anecdotally that it feels different. And the folks that I were talking to thought the policy had changed. And I let them know that, no, it hadn't. We just had decided to adhere to it and implement it. And they were like, well, it's like night and day, I think was one quote at one middle school. And, an administrator at a different school said, it's not even in my top 5 issues. With that said, I think there's a lot of issues. So I don't, I didn't ask what the top 5 were. But it does feel better. By many accounts. I don't know. I think it would be a little foolish to think we figured this out at the middle school level. And then at the high school level, I have all sorts of thoughts, but we haven't really begun to dig in there around the data piece and kind of understanding what everyone's thinking. We know that there are some folks that are reaching out and saying we'd like change, but
I just want to jump in too and say that I think that having a representative sampling of parents, of non-English speaking parents, is something that we haven't gotten yet. So we need to do some additional outreach.
Thank you.
And a lot's changed for those families. I'm sorry. A lot's changed since October, just nationally. And so I don't know if we were to ask again, if families would be like, I do not want my kid without his phone. Yeah.
Vice Chair?
Thank you so much. Thank you, Juliana. I have a question for the last part. Dr. Ahmed just mentioned about parents' ideas of recommendation. Can I have a little more details about how the parents are organized? If it's inclusive of the parents, PTOs, where all those parents are coming from? So, and also the time frame to have those recommendations written to us. So I just want to have a broader ideas. Thank you.
So the parents are mainly where parents, not multilingual parents, started. The first person reached out to us was a staff member who said there are parents who were like organized, and but it's not multilingual community members. There are also individual teachers who reach out and said, like, well, when we going to do something about the high schools? So, but it is not. It's not cross-sectional group of parents who are representative of the community. It is, I could say, like it is one profile or demographics.
Okay, but those are across all the schools. I mean, from elementary school to high schools. Those are parents on the different levels.
No, they were specifically talking about the high schools.
Okay, only high school. Okay, all right. Thank you, Dr. Ahmed. Thank you, Juliana.
Really? Sally?
Thank you. I just had thinking about having a policy that's a little bit more strict. I'm just thinking about the logistics of that and how much more this can be ideas from anyone, like how much more stricter can the schools get? At the end of the day, it's it's parents who buy the phones for the kids, and we are basically asking teachers to put themselves in the situation of being policing students more than, that is desirable. And that kind of, in my mind, is creating a little bit of animosity between teachers and students. So I don't know what parents are thinking. I would love to know a little bit more of or suggestions in how like what ideas there are of strengthening the policy and making it a little bit more stricter. Does this mean that we have more parents involved who are teaching their kids at home not to use the phones? So that's just my thinking, and how we can make how can we not make students and teachers kind of have this animosity towards each other, I guess.
Courtney's heard me say this to educators when they're like, and make this go away, and teachers don't have to police it. And my response is, that's not possible. If we want this to work, if we get to a point where we were like no phones or a stricter, policy, we would all have to participate in that. And that will fall on classroom teachers and ed techs and everyone, to the principals. I don't think we need to make big adjustments to the middle school or elementary school policy. I mean, kids could turn their phones in the morning during advisory and check them out at the end if a lockbox were there. That raises anxiety, again, for teachers to be the holder of expensive devices. So that might be an adjustment for policy around protections around that. But that wouldn't have to change the policy. The high school is a different animal, and I have all sorts of wonderings and ideas about that. But for the middle school, I don't think we would have to actually change the policy. We might our practices within the parameters of the policy could be more restrictive.
I was thinking of that idea of having like a box with students leave at least their phones in the beginning of class, at least just to give parents like a little bit more comfort. But how is the high school different? Can you please just explain that to me?
Yeah. So, Ms. Ali, if I jump into this and follow up with the first one, I 100% agree with you. There is like a collective work that we need as parents, as community members, to work together, and will not be only the teachers or the school's responsibility only. We need to work together and support, because the young minds, our students, they're really very smart, and they need the support that they get, reinforcement at home, and lessons, as well as some structure. So, and also keeping them accountable. So if we are collectively working together to keep them, just to like teach them, make them learn, tell them about the lessons, about how this can damage, but also provide some structure where they will be supported. And the high school and the policy, that your last question, the high school and the policy is different. It is only during the classes and other educational activities, they will be off-site. So the students in the cafeteria, they use their phones. They can, according to the policy, or they can use it during the break times. But it is different in the middle school. Middle school is like, and the elementary school is like off and out of sight all the time during the school day.
Thank you. Representative Fitzgerald.
Hi, yes, thank you. So, almost to build off of Yusra Ali's concern about the animosity building between students and teachers, in the high school, I know that a really big part of having your phone with you or being told to put away your phone is you feel that you're like being infringed upon and your property is being infringed upon, because you feel that you have a lot more control over that. Like less in the middle school, more in the middle school, it's like your parents bought the phone, yes. And in the high school, your parents still did buy the phone, but you feel more entitlement to that, to keep it. So I think that the biggest way to really convey that it's more beneficial to kind of put it away during school would be to educate kids on how they would be more successful if they weren't so distracted by it and they made their own choice to put it away. I think that showing statistics could be really beneficial, just knowing, like seeing how the phones are talked about at school and the high schools with students. It's really like demonized, I guess. And if there was just more education and then like the students made the choice to put it away, then I feel like it would be a lot more I just feel like that's the way to do it, I guess, in the high school level, or one of the ways. Because yes, rigid enforcement would definitely work if everybody did like apply to it or stick to it. But I just don't really see that happening. And I just, see a lot of tension building up between students and teachers in that case. So that's
Thank you. Anyone have any comments that they want to add to this? The principals that are in attendance, if you'd like to say something, you're welcome to. You don't have to. No. So I think this has been very good. I appreciate all of the work yes. Principal Narhan.
Hi there. Thanks for having me. I want to echo what's been said, that this is a problem that has been building for a while, and I think it needs a community solution, not just an individual teacher solution. And that's why I'm here in the hopes that there will be a community-wide solution. And that part includes the education that Ms. Fitzgerald talked about, working with the parents and the community members to not just on education, but also, looking at what does happen to, student achievement, student mental health, relationship building between teachers and students, and just culture of the buildings. It's really important that we approach this in a holistic way. And it's clear to me that because we've done that at the middle schools, that there is movement. And I'd like to see that at the high school as well for next year. Many of our staff and students and families are interested in looking at that for next year. And I think the data is bearing out, even if it's anecdotal, that this type of approach will work better, will be embraced by all the members of the community and ultimately be more successful. So I hope to see some action similar to this for next year.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Ms. Fitzgerald, I want to mention that definitely that whatever happens, that we would love to, or we definitely have students to be part of it. And so nothing will be done to students. It will be like collective thing that we are doing together. So there will be students, being part of this process, because I will tell you that coming from the classroom, when I say to a student, like, give me your phone, it's different than when I say, like, I'm deeply offended when I'm talking and you're using your phone. It's totally different. So very intelligent people that and we are aware of that, and we will be partners. But how we can collectively increase the learning and the teaching environment to be better. That's our work as a community, but it's not like something that will be done to students. So I hear you, and that's well taken.
Thank you. Well, I think there's been incredible work done on this, thought done on this, anxiety over all of this, and I really appreciate that. The shock of not having a phone with you is hard for any age, and that for any length of time. So I think it's a learning case for a lot of people. I was very pleased to hear that some middle school teachers thought that they could restrict it, because essentially if you're on the phone in front of your students who are doing their assignment that you've given them, you're mixed messaging it, and that's personally, I think that's not a wonderful idea. We have other things that we had another topic to cover, and we have a bit of time, not a lot of time, but hopefully enough. I would thank all of you who have participated in the discussion on cell phones, but now we'll have a discussion with Member Fitzgerald leading a discussion on civics education, and I thought it was kind of very pleasant and all. Thank you. Sarah Lance, did you want to say something?
Yeah, just really quickly, Alberto Morales is an assistant principal at Casco Bay, and since he's here, I think it might be helpful to hear his thoughts. His hand is up, so if we could move him over and allow him to speak, would that be okay?
I appreciate that, but I do think we have the agenda for, and it is 6:10, and Miss Fitzgerald is in.
Okay.
Okay, I think that's give her due and her time as well. And Mr. Morales, I have a feeling I know what he's going to say, and I would like to listen to his support again another time. Thank you. So with that, I would turn over the program to Ms. Fitzgerald.
Okay, so should I share the slides, or how would that work? I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
I'll need help with that with Greg.
You should be able to share your screen. I have made you co-host.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead and share your screen on the bottom. There's a green arrow, and if you click that, it should let you share your screen.
Okay. And
there you go.
Okay, we'll find it. Okay, so.
Can you see my screen?
Can you see? Can you all see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Was this sufficient? Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Okay. I just, in the presentation, I just put in a couple slides on mission and strategic plan, but I'll let you begin the discussion.
Okay, so first of all, thank you for being here and listening to this. I appreciate it. So I am proposing a 9th and 10th grade, or 9th or 10th grade American Civic Studies class. The reason I think we need this class is because there's a growing... Yeah.
Pardon me?
Sorry, we can't see the slides again.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No worries. Julian, I think you pulled it down.
Oh, well, let me just make sure I put it back up. Can you see them now?
No.
All right.
Nina, can you try sharing your screen again?
Yeah.
All right.
There you go.
Okay, great. So, okay, why I think we need this course. Is it showing my full screen?
Yes, it's showing both screens, yes.
And now it's back down. So it was.
I see, okay.
If you want to pull up your slides and hit share or a slideshow.
Yeah. I see. Can you see it now?
It's loading. There you go. Yeah, and then just hit slideshow.
great. So, okay, to restart. The reason I think that we need this class, or it would be beneficial, is because there's a growing lack of governmental knowledge in America, and this affects in my opinion, the participation of youth in local, international, and national political affairs. So hopefully this would get them more interested in those, because they would have a good foundational understanding of America's past and current political stances. When we teach kids, to become citizens of the United States and the world, I think it's important to teach them how the political world impacts them and how they can impact it. And through this, hopefully they will develop informed political perspectives and decision-making skills. So in this script, or the course in my eyes, would kind of work like this. They would explore various documents that make up our republic and our politics, such as the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, Articles of Confederation, Bill of Rights, and Mayflower Compact, to take an in-depth look at the terminology used in these documents to help the students better understand the interpretation of these documents throughout history. We would compare, or hopefully compare, sections of these documents and break down the meaning of constitutional developments and key Supreme Court decisions that directly impact these documents or work with them. This would help build confidence in political reasoning through a balanced perspective, because we would study the history, creation, and evolution of the American government, emphasizing the Constitution and its amendments. This would help them analyze the development of civil liberties, exploring significant Supreme Court decisions and their impact on American society. This would really help show how these documents remain relevant and adaptable over time. And it would teach students how government functions at the local, state, and federal levels, with attention to laws, executive orders, and legislative processes that directly impact them. This can highlight government decisions such as taxation, Social Security, and civil rights policies, again, that directly impact them and their future. This would equip students with the knowledge that they need to actively participate in civic life and engage with the political process meaningfully. Hopefully this would increase the understanding of governmental functions, such as the election processes, both at state and national levels. Hopefully this would increase student understanding of the different branches of government and how they work together, and boost participation and interest in local political affairs. Does anybody have any questions about that? That's sort of my full.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I appreciate doing it. Dr. Scallon.
Hey, Mina, this was great and really helpful information. I appreciate it. When you think about all the demands on your time and the choices you have to make as a student around classes, are there thoughts about an adjustment to where we would perhaps lessen the requirement to make it so that there's space for this?
Lessen the requirement, you mean like take away from other?
Yeah.
Like
should we, is the trade-off that students have one less elective, or is it that there's a different one that we would change?
A different elective. I'm not quite sure about that, but I know take away from a different, I'm not quite sure about that, but I know that it would probably alleviate a lot of what sociology or the sociologist teacher has, and a lot of the history teachers have to teach, because there's a lot of civics in those classes that having to rerun those really does, or relearn them constantly, does impact that learning, like the history part of it. So I'm not quite sure if I would take away from other parts of the class, but if that sort of answers that, or.
So Mina, my question is, why, if they cover this in other classes, what would be different about this class? In other words, what?
Well, really, the only place I've seen.
Right.
Yeah. Well, of course, I know that in other history classes, like in the CP, class and the honors class, they don't really go over civics as in depth as we do in APUSH. And in the APUSH class, we really learn how many, like we learn about the Congress and the separation of that, how many votes it takes for everything to get passed, who declares a war, who passes an amendment, who, all of these things. But it's really only talked about in an APUSH class to then talk about the historical part of it. So for other classes and for other people who don't take APUSH or aren't engaged in these courses, it seems to me that they don't get that foundational knowledge or understanding of these things. And there's a lot of civic literacy studies that have been done that show that a lot of children and adults can't either properly state who declares war or who passes and ratifies laws and amendments, and what the role of the VP is in the government, or identify the branches of the government, what they do. So I think that leaving that education for higher education does seem kind of, I just don't think it's that inclusive in my opinion. I think that this
freezing up a bit.
Should be accessible.
Thank you. Vice Chair Bondo.
Yes, Mina, thank you so much for the concept, and I totally agree with you. So I have that's just a clarification question. Do you see that one like a social studies or just a civic education of that process? And if also you feel like where we have to start from middle school or everything just from the high school level?
Well, I mean, ideally there would be a middle school civics course that would give foundational knowledge for the high school, or set foundational knowledge for the high school. What were the other parts of your question?
Okay, so what do you think is are you put that course to the social studies, or just a civic engagement, or something new to create on the top of all those different courses than we're already giving to the school, in the school?
Yeah, I think it would have to fall under the social studies category, because it would teach history, I suppose. There would be a lot of history in that, and like sociology is under social studies, and that's kind of in the same realm as that. So I assume it would be part of that cohort. Mm-hmm. And again, it would really help a lot of the history teachers in their functions as well, I think.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Zeli?
Did you say the class would be for 9th and 10th graders?
Yeah, I was thinking either 9th or 10th, because, well, I'm actually not really quite sure. I just think those would be the best grades to kind of start it, like an entry to high school, because then after that you can take kind of harder, you can take more history electives if you like that, more government electives, or more history classes, I suppose.
I see. I just have 2 questions and 2 points, and please, I hope they don't come off like, weird. But anyways, did you think about how this can be incorporated into the history class that already exists, and kind of create, I know like teachers have their own, what is it called? They curate their classes based on standards or whatnot. But have you thought of if this would be helpful for teachers who already teach in English, history or social studies? And could this idea, which is amazing, by the way, could it be a club instead of a class? And that's what I meant. I hope my question did not offend you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it definitely did not, because if this could be a club, I would totally love it to be a club. But the issue is that I fear not a lot of people would join it or be engaged enough with it to do what I actually want it to do, or to do what it needs to do, I suppose. But I wouldn't, if that's what it should be, is a club, then obviously I wouldn't be opposed to that if that's what it seems to work out best as. And I think your first question was, does this benefit like the history department? Or,
Yeah, could it be like an addition, or could there be a space in the curriculum to kind of focus on not just this is the three branches of government, but these really detailed information that would be helpful in being like civic engaged? My English is going away, but
Yes.
like civically engaged person in our society.
Oh yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, I think like trying to build engagement, like tell the students how they can engage with these branches is what you mean?
No, but like in class, and like just put it as part of the curriculum. And because I took like AP history, and honestly, I don't remember anything, because it was just fast, and you're like preparing for that AP test. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, is there like a way that your idea could enhance the teachers and how they set up their class to really focus on these important parts of history and civic engagement?
I mean, I suppose that it could because they would like by studying first the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, like understanding that foundational knowledge, once they learn what the branches of government are and what they do, then they'll be able to like apply that to the real world, I suppose, and then use like more like through their classes or through those other classes, they could apply this knowledge there. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sort of. I really do like your idea, but I'm just wondering how it could be supplemented in other classes that already exist. But I think it really hits a very important lack of just understanding our system in the country, which I welcome your idea. But I just wanted to like and ask if you thought about other ways in which it could be implemented.
Oh, so just like adding these ideas into like other classes, just like taking parts of the
Like
curriculum.
history class, basically.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I also would love that. I mean, I am taking APUSH right now, and yeah, you do spend a little bit of time over the civics and course, but yes, it is really quick, and you don't really get a big or a good understanding of it. So, I mean, if it could at least, or if this curriculum could like help widen that and like deepen that part of it, then yeah, that would be great. And writing in, like, I wouldn't mind at all if that's again what this kind of comes to. Again, this is kind of just like a discussion about this because I know how hard it is to get this stuff done, but again, I do think it is important, and I appreciate your questions. I don't find them offensive at all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I know how much Mina has thought about this and been working on it, and actually, and sharing it with her colleagues who are also on the board. And I think it's a good start. And I know going forward, it's something that needs a little bit more discussion. And Mina knows this. I think the idea of staff would obviously have to have some say and input on this, but I'm glad to hear that you do have support, Mina, and we will figure out how to move this on and along as best we can. It takes a while
of course, thank you.
Process and all. So, with that said, any other thoughts? Well, Dr. Ahmed, did you?
I was just saying, like, I like the idea, and I really appreciate that. And it is amazing when students are taking the learning back and saying, like, this is what we need to learn. So it is kudos to you, and thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you so much.
Great. Well, Ms. Jepson should be very proud of you. So with that, I think, do I have a motion that we could adjourn? Or do we have something else? Okay. Second, then.
I moved.
Thank you. Anything else before we take a vote? All in favor? Good night, everyone. Thank you so much.